Hello again, Algebra 1 students. We are back in Unit 1 booklet. We are in Tier 3. We are on Lesson 3, which is unlike fractions. Notice that that's unlike, not like. So here we are, Lesson 3 in Tier 3, unlike fractions. So now it's a little different because the denominators are not the same. So what you have to do, you must first find the common denominator. All right. Well, how do we do that? Well, there's a couple ways. The first way is you can see if either of the two are divisors of the other. And what that means is, does one divide into the other? That's called a divisor. Or the other thing you could do, which is quicker, but then you will usually have to reduce, is you can just multiply the two denominators together to get the common denominator, CD. I'm going to shrink this. So let's look at our first example. Well, the first thing I look at, I see my denominators as 3 and 12. Well, I know that I can divide 12 by 3 evenly. So what I want to do then is make this term have 12 as a denominator. Well, it's a real simple process to where you just have to remember whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Well, to get 3 to 12, I have to multiply that 3 by 4. So if I added a little fraction out here, I'd have to multiply the bottom by 4 to get 12. And I just have to do the same to the top because 4 over 4 is equivalent to 1. So all I'm doing to this is multiplying 2/3 by 1. 4 over 4 is 1. So I'm not changing the value of that fraction or that term. So if I go 4 times 2, that gives me 8. And 4 times 3, that gives me 12. And now I have plus 4/12. As you can see, I now have a common denominator of 12. And I can just add it across. And I know that my answer is going to be in twelfths. And 8 plus 4 is 12. And look at that, I can reduce that fraction to 1. Now I'm going to shrink this. Looking here at our second example, I know that 3 cannot go into 8. It does not divide, so it's not a divisor. So what other numbers can 3 and 8 have in common? Let's see. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. So what I'm going to do with this example is I'm going to just multiply 3 times 8. So again, knowing your facts off the top of your head without using a calculator, I challenge you to do that. So 3 times 8 is equal to 24. I'm going to shrink that. So now that I know that my common denominator is 24, and I know how I'm going to achieve 24, I know that I have to multiply 3 on this side by 8, and whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top, because then I'm only multiplying by 1, just like in the first example. And on this side, I'm not multiplying by 8 because I want to get 8 to 24, so I have to multiply by 3, so I have to have the top multiplied by 3. So then I would get 3 times 9, which 3 times 9 is 27, over 24, because 3 times 8 is 24, minus 1 times 8, which is 8, and 3 times 8 is 24. So now I have common denominators of 24, and I can now just subtract my numerators like I would any other number. So I have 27 minus 8. So 27 minus 8 is equal to 19 over 24. And since we know that 19 is a prime number, that means it's only divisible by 1 in itself, we cannot reduce this fraction any further, so this is our solution. I'm going to shrink this now. Moving on to our third and final example, we have 7 and 5. So now we need to find a common denominator that is 7 and 5. Well, 7 and 5 are both prime. They both only are divisible by 1 in themselves. So the easiest way to do it is to use our technique that we used in example 2, which is to multiply 7 and 5 and figure out what that number will be, because that will be our common denominator. So our common denominator is definitely going to be 35. So what we got to do now is we have to multiply not only the bottom, but the top by whatever we do. So on the right side of this expression, to get 5 to 35, we must multiply it by 7. Well, that means we have to multiply 13 by 7, so that because we're multiplying by, in essence, 7 over 7. On the left side of the expression, we need to multiply 7 by 5, and we also need to multiply the negative 2 by 5, so in essence we're only multiplying by 1. So down here we would get 35 as our denominators of both, because 7 times 5 is 35, and 5 times 7 is 35. Now we have negative 2 multiplied by 5. Well, negative 2 multiplied by 5 is only negative 10. And then we have 13 multiplied by 7. Well, if you wanted to use your calculators, I don't mind, but 13 multiplied by 7 is 91. So now we have common denominators, so we only have to add the numerators together. And as you can see, the numerator has a positive and a negative number, so you have to decide if they're going to, you have to decide which number is greater and find the difference. So the number that is greater is definitely the 91, and that's positive because this positive goes with that 91. So if we just take 10 away from 91, we're going to wind up with 81. So we get 81 over 35. And to find out if we can reduce it or not, we have to write down the factors of both of these numbers. The factors of 35 are 35 and 1, 7 and 5. And the factors of 81 are 1 and 81 and 9. So it does not have common factors, so therefore this is in the lowest form that we can get it into. We could make it a mixed number, but we don't need to at this point.